General, so what are your current, cooperation with the Ukrainian military in Ukraine?
Well, the United States is committed to helping Ukraine defend itself. We have about 300 soldiers that are here at the training center in Yavoriv, working with Ukrainian soldiers, also helping with counterfire radar, medical training, and basic defensive tasks.
And what do you say? What would be now the priorities for the Ukrainian army? What should be done?
Well, I had the great privilege to meet the Minister of Defense and the Land Forces Commander here yesterday and today. I'm impressed with their focus on developing a very good training center, putting quality officers and NCOs there. I was impressed with President Poroshenko's announcement yesterday to improve the NCOs, the sergeants. So those are all the right things to be focusing on to help soldiers in the NATO be successful.
And if we have this kind of ceasefire, it's not always working, but at this time for the army, what are the most important things?
Well, of course, today I was at the cemetery here in Lviv and saw the graves of Ukrainian soldiers that had been killed in the ATO, and I was reminded that we had 7 soldiers killed just this week. So the Russians and their proxies are not observing the ceasefire correctly, and there's evidence, with the loss of these Ukrainian soldiers here. We want the Minsk agreement, obviously, to be fully implemented. Russia should allow the OSCE to do its job to monitor the ceasefire. I think that's very important. But in the meanwhile, I have been impressed with how Ukraine has done a very good job to live up to its obligation.
What would be currently the priorities of the NATO and the U.S. Army in Europe and in Eastern Europe? What is so far?
Well, for us, the number one priority is being able to deter further aggression. So the Warsaw Summit, the NATO Summit in Warsaw, I think will show the alliance transitioning from assurance to deterrence. I don't know exactly what that will look like yet, but my job as the Army commander is to make sure that Army forces are prepared to do their part with infantry, armor, artillery, engineers, and so on.
So what it would be, if you speak about this, we're speaking about strengthening the eastern frontier of NATO, what it would be, the rotation, can you probably explain? Because there is a lot of discussions, but we want to have a more or less precise and, let's say, answers without the speculations.
Well, until the NATO summit, I don't know exactly what it's going to look like.
But there is some plan which would be proposed.
Yeah, of course. Well, it wouldn't be right for me to speculate on what's been proposed until it's been decided. What I can say is that the United States Army in Europe is completely focused on being ready to support our allies, to support our friends, to demonstrate our commitment. You're seeing it now here, of course, in Ukraine. You're going to see it in exercises in Poland and the Baltic countries next month in June. We'll be back here in Ukraine for a rapid Trident exercise in August. The Army is going to add an armor brigade that'll beginning in February that will be here. So these are all things that we're doing.
Would there be the permanent rotation?
That's correct. Yes.
How it does look? Can you probably explain?
So you'll have a brigade with about 4,000 soldiers, tanks, infantry vehicles, artillery, engineer vehicles, and so on. And they will be stationed for 9 months in Baltic countries, Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, and they will conduct training in each of those areas. Occasionally, they will come together to demonstrate how quickly they can move, and then they'll go back. And they'll do that for 9 months, and then they'll be replaced by another brigade with all of its equipment for another 9-month rotation, and that's how we're going to do that.
And currently there is still discussion with, what can Russia militarily do at this stage? What would you know? What the NATO forces are expecting?
Well, I think, what you've heard Secretary General say, what you've heard the former SACEUR say, is that Russia would like to tear apart the unity of the EU, tear apart the unity of NATO, to create weakness and division. So I think that they'll continue to do things like that. They still have 7,000 soldiers in Georgia, occupied Abkhazia and South Ossetia in Georgia without any legal basis. They still have soldiers sitting in Transnistria. Of course, they are still occupying Crimea and participating in Donbass. So Russia could do a lot to lower the anxiety that countries have if they would be more transparent. They want to be treated like a superpower. They should act like a superpower, be responsible, and look for ways to lower tension.
And my final, today everybody already speaks about all this hybrid warfare. Is it really hybrid? And what are the new things we have to learn from this conflict that we should be ready to answer?
Well, what matters is that Russia uses information or misinformation to confuse people, to deceive people, to make it difficult to understand what's actually going on. And remember, I said their objective is to pull apart the alliance and make countries make it unclear what's actually happening. That's number one. The use of electronic warfare is in a way that we haven't seen in a very long time. The use of drones that they've employed in the Donbass region, again, is something that we haven't had to deal with before. So these are all parts of it.
Okay, thanks so much.
All right.
Yeah.